Hi everybody, welcome back to Storytime with Grandma Kate, and we're going to continue in this video with Junie B. Jones' Cheater Pants. In this video, we're going to be reading chapters 4, 5, and 6. So if it gets to be a little long for you, just feel free to hit pause and come back when you're ready. But if you remember in the last chapter that we read that ended chapter 3, Mr. Scary discovered that Junie B had copied May's homework paper, and he said he was disappointed in her. She felt kind of sad about it. Hey, did you talk to Mom and Dad about what disappointed means, or what cheating might mean, or if you had a problem at school, if you copied someone's paper, what that might mean? I did a lot of thinking about this in between the last video and this one, and I think this is a very interesting topic to discuss with Mom and Dad. And as a matter of fact, in chapter 4, it starts off with what Mr. Scary does to let Junie B's parents know what happened. So let's jump right in. Chapter 4 is called Cheater Pants. And she starts off this chapter again with a journal entry. It is still dumb Monday. Dear first grade journal, right now it is recess. I am not on the playground. Instead, I am sitting at my desk and I am waiting to get yelled at. I wish I could disappear into thin air. If I could disappear, I would run outside and I would find May and I would clunk her in the head. I wish I didn't even sit next to that girl, because people should never leave homework on their desk for other people to borrow. That is just asking for trouble, mister. From Junie B, first grader. I wonder why Junie B wants to clunk May in the head. Why is she blaming May? It's not May's fault that she left her paper out, is it? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Mr. Scary was writing at his desk. He looked up and called my name. Junie B, he said, I'm ready for you now. Could you please bring your chair up here? My stomach flipped and flopped, because here came the yelling part, that's why. I did some deep breaths, and then I pulled my chair to the front of the room, and I sat down next to him. Mr. Scary took my homework paper out of his drawer, and he set it in front of me, very serious. I want you to explain this, Junie B, he said. I want you to tell me exactly why you copied May's homework this morning. I tried to swallow, but nothing went down. Well, let's see. The reason I copied was... I tapped on my chin. Then all of a sudden I thought of it. Daddy, I said, it was my daddy's fault. My teacher looked surprised at that answer. Your daddy, he said. Your daddy told you to copy May's homework? Yes, I said. No. Last night I wanted to stay up late to do my homework, but Daddy turned out my light, and so he is the reason I had to come to school without it. Oh, I see, said my teacher. Your daddy wouldn't let you stay up, so that's what forced you to copy May's paper? I nodded real fast. Yes, I said, that's exactly it. Mr. Scary raised his eyebrows. So did May actually give you her paper to copy? He asked next. I rolled my eyes at that crazy question. No, silly, May would never be that nice, I said. It's just that this morning she kept on bragging about how her homework is always an A+. And then she left the paper on top of her desk when she went to the office. And that is just asking for trouble, mister. Mr. Scary leaned back in his chair. Ah, he said. So when May left for the office, you saw her paper and you just decided to borrow it, I said. I decided to borrow it to copy. My teacher did a frown. Borrow, he said. Oh no, Junie B, I'm sorry, but borrow is not the right word here. When you copy someone else's paper, that's called cheating. My eyes got big and shocked at that word, because what was he even talking about? Oh no, Mr. Scary, no, I didn't cheat. I didn't, I said. Cheating is when you steal answers off of someone's test. But homework isn't a test. Homework doesn't even count, hardly. Oh, but homework does count, Junie B, he said back. Cheating is not just about stealing test answers. Cheating is any time you take someone else's work and you present it as your own. He looked at me. When you cheated this morning, you broke my trust in you, Junie B, he said. We have a rule about this in room 1. We keep our eyes on our own papers. You've heard me say that 100 times, I bet. And there's Mr. Scary talking to Junie B. She was trying to justify the reason she cheated. You know what justify means? It's like make an excuse or give a reason that's not really the truth. What do you think about what Mr. Scary said? Do you think that it's cheating if you copy someone's homework? Or is it just on a test? What do you think? I think it's everything. If you take someone's work and copy it off as your own, that's cheating. I felt surprised at that information. That's a rule, I said. No kidding. I always thought that it was, well, just a suggestion. Mr. Scary rolled his eyes. No, Junie B, it is not a suggestion. It's definitely a rule, he said, and it is an important rule, too. I drummed my fingers on the desk. Well, I'll be darned, I said. After a while, I did a deep breath. I'm sorry, I said real soft. Mr. Scary smiled a little bit. I'm sorry too, Junie B, he said, but at least now I think we understand each other better. I will not put up with cheaters in my classroom. I did a wince. Yeah, only I wish you wouldn't keep saying that cheater word, I said, because I didn't even know I was cheating hardly. Plus, I don't like cheaters either, Mr. Scary, on account of my daddy cheated me at Old Maid last week, and I am still not over that terrible experience. Mr. Scary wrinkled his eyebrows. Your daddy cheated? He said. Yes, I did a sigh. Daddy raised the Old Maid way high in his hand so I would pick her. And then I did. And so what kind of sneaky trick was that? Mr. Scary covered his mouth. He was shocked, I believe. I leaned closer to him. And Daddy is not the only cheater pants in my family either, I said quiet. On account of my Grandpa Frank Miller is supposed to be on a diet, but yesterday Grandma found an empty pie pan in his closet. And all that was left was a little tiny bit of crust and a plastic fork. I thought for a second. No wonder I cheated, I said. Cheating is in my blood, apparently. Mr. Scary did a chuckle. Well, nobody's perfect, he said. Everyone cheats on a diet once in a while, I think. But cheating at school is a very different matter, Junie B. Cheating in school is very serious business. Are we clear on that now? I nodded real fast. Clear, I said. After that, both of us shook hands, and Mr. Scary carried my chair back to my desk. After I sat down, he took an envelope out of his pocket, and he handed it to me. I wrote a note to your parents explaining what happened this morning, he said. I would like them to read it and sign it, okay? You can bring it back to me in the morning. I did a gasp at that scary thing. Oh no, Mr. Scary, not okay, I said. Please don't make me take a note home. Please, I really, really, really don't want to take a note. Mr. Scary thought for a second, and then he took the note back. Well, okay, he said. If you feel that strongly, I won't make you take it. He started walking back to his desk. I'll just call them tonight instead, he said. I did a loud groan, because what kind of dumb choice is that? I stomped to his desk and I grabbed back the note. Then I stuffed it in my backpack and I sat down at my desk and I wrote in my journal one more time. Mr. Scary is a tattletale. Here she is stuffing the note in her backpack, and that's what she wrote. Mr. Scary is a tattletale. Do you think he's a tattletale? I think there's a difference between being a tattletale and letting parents know when their kids have done something. I used to do that. Only I think I've told you in other videos. Sometimes I would write a note home, but sometimes I had a phone in my room and I would walk the kid out in the hallway and I'd bring the phone out and I'd have them call their parents and tell them what they did. That way they could solve it themselves on the phone. What do you think of that? Are you glad you weren't in my class when I taught first grade? Some people would say that. Anyway, chapter 5 is called The Note. That night at dinner, I couldn't swallow my meatball. Because how can you swallow a meatball when there's a note from your teacher in your pocket? Mother kept on looking at my plate. What's the trouble with you tonight, honey? She asked. You love spaghetti and meatballs. I picked up my fork real slow, and then I put it right down again. Is something wrong, Junie B? Asked Daddy. Are you sick? I got down from my chair and I stood by my table. Then I hanged my head and very slow I took the note out of my pocket. I did something bad at school today, I said real glum, and so there's something I have to give you. I rocked back and forth on my feet for a minute, and then I quick threw the note on the table and I ran to my room as fast as I could. And I shut the door real hard. And then I ran around and around in circles because I didn't actually have a plan, that's why. My stuffed animals looked shocked at me. What's wrong, Junie B? Said my Raggedy Ann named Ruth. Are you in trouble? Of course she's in trouble, said my Raggedy Andy named Larry. Can't you tell? I'll bet Mother and Daddy are going to be running in here any second. My elephant named Philip Johnny Bob did fast thinking. Hide, Junie B, he told me. Hide in the closet until they calm themselves down. I nodded at that good idea. Elephants are the smartest stuffed animal there is. I like Philip Johnny Bob myself. After that, I quick grabbed him by his foot and we ran into my closet. We climbed over shoes and games and then we scrunched way down in the corner. And pretty soon, we heard Mother and Daddy come in my room. Our hearts started to pound and pound. And then we tried to scrunch even smaller, only too bad for us because Philip Johnny Bob accidentally knocked over a shoebox, and that made a loud crashing sound. Mother and Daddy opened the closet door. I waved at them real pleasant. Hello, how are you today? I said. Philip Johnny Bob held out his arms. I love you people, he said. Daddy rolled his eyes. Then he came into the closet and he carried us out. He sat me and Philip Johnny Bob on my bed. Mother sat next to us. You didn't have to hide from us, Junie B, she said. Daddy and I didn't come to yell at you. We just came in to talk about this. I flopped back on my bed and I put my pillow on my head. And there's Junie B hiding in the closet with Philip Johnny Bob. I think that's the part where he's holding out his arms saying, I love you people. Yeah, only I already did talk about this, Mother, I said real muffly. Me and Mr. Scary talked about this for a jillion million hours at recess. Mother took the pillow off of my head. Yes, I'm sure you did, she said, but Daddy and I need to talk to you too, Junie B. Copying someone else's homework is a very serious matter, honey. Daddy nodded. Cheating is wrong, he said. We want to make sure you understand that. I did a big breath at that man. But I already do understand that, Daddy, I said. I don't even like cheaters myself. I thought for a moment, and then all of a sudden I remembered about the old maid. I sat right up. And anyway, if you think cheating is so wrong, then how come you did it yourself? I said. Huh, Daddy? Huh? Daddy looked shocked at me. What? He said. What are you talking about? I don't cheat. Yes, you do too, cheat, I said back. On account of last week, you cheated me at Old Maid, and I'm still not over that terrible experience. Junie B, that's not true, Daddy said. I already explained that to you, remember? When you raise the Old Maid above the other cards in your hand, it's not cheating, it's part of the fun. Yeah, only it wasn't fun, I said. It wasn't, because after you raised her up there, you did a wink at me like it wasn't really her. Only it was her, Daddy. And so what kind of sneaky trick is that? Daddy rolled his eyes way up to the ceiling, and then he shook his head kind of annoyed, and he left my room. Mother ruffled my hair. Sorry, honey, she said, but I'm afraid Daddy is right on this one. What he did was sneaky, but it wasn't cheating. Trying to fool the other person is supposed to be part of the game. And then after that, she went to go start my bath water. Me and Philip Johnny Bob flopped back on my pillow. And we did a sigh, because grown-ups never do anything wrong, it seems. Not even when they do. She's kind of mad that her dad wouldn't admit to cheating. And I think she's got a point. He wasn't cheating, but he was being sneaky, I think. But yeah, I know how she feels. I used to feel like that when I would play old maid and people would stick that old maid up. But see, what I would do is I would stick another card up so they wouldn't pick that one, and then they'd pick another one. Sometimes it was the old maid. Anyway, the last chapter in this video today is called Tin Can. The next morning, I sat next to Herb on the bus. I sit next to him every single day, on account of that's what bestest friends automatically do. Herb started talking about his new dog named Dilly. Only I couldn't even pay attention that good. Because how can you talk about Dilly when you still got a note from your teacher in your pocket? Mother and Daddy had signed that dumb thing, and now I had to take it back to Mr. Scary. I slumped way down in my seat, because school was not being fun these days. I looked at Herb. I wish I could tell him about my problem, only what if he didn't like cheaters? And if he found out I was one, he wouldn't like me either. I thought and thought really hard. And then finally I took a deep breath and I decided to risk it. I leaned real close to his ear and I whispered to him very secret. Okay, here's the situation, Herb, I said. I'm in a little bit of trouble at school. Only I'm not bad, I promise. It's just that yesterday I accidentally did something wrong, but I don't actually want to tell you what it was or else you might not like me anymore. Herb looked at me and shrugged. You copied May's homework when she went to the office, he said. I did a gasp at that boy, because how did he know that private information? I scratched my head, but how did you even? Herb interrupted me. I saw you, he said. Lenny and Jose saw you too. You're a terrible sneak, Junie B. Really terrible, I mean. I did a little frown, because that was not a compliment, possibly. Herb patted my arm. Don't worry, we still like you, he said. Just don't copy May's homework anymore, and then you won't get into any more trouble. I nodded my head, and then I patted him back. That Herb is good for me, I think. Me and Herbert walked to room 1 together, and then we stopped right in our footsteps because wow, that whole room looked different, I tell you. Instead of being in rows, all of the desks were arranged in groups of circles. We looked in the back to where we sit, and there were 5 desks in a group. There were 5 desks in our group. May was already in her seat. And there's a picture. You can see the classroom looks different. Mr. Scary put them all in little groups, so they were all facing each other. I wonder what he's going to have them do. Let's find out. May was cleaning her desktop with a moist towelette. Just then, Lenny and Jose walked in behind us. Whoa, said Lenny. What's going on here? Said Jose. Mr. Scary told us to please find our desks, and he will explain this in a minute. All of us went back and sat down. Sitting in a circle feels friendly. We waved and smiled at each other. Only not May. She looked smuggy at us. Smuggy is like that. I already know why we're sitting like this, she said. I was the first one here this morning, and when you're first, you get to know stuff. Jose stared at her moist towelette, and he made the cuckoo sign. Just then, Mr. Scary went to the board, and he wrote a weird word. Boys and girls, this morning we're going to be doing a poetry assignment, he said. That's why I arranged your desks like this. I want you to be able to talk over your thoughts and share ideas. He pointed at the weird word. It was spelled CINQUAIN. Does anyone want to try and pronounce this? He asked. Does anyone want to try to sound it out? May jumped right up. Tin can, she shouted. It's pronounced tin can. She grinned, real delighted. I know it's tin can because you told me that this morning, remember? I was the first one here and I saw you write it on the board and you told me it was pronounced tin can. Mr. Scary looked puzzled at her. Gee, I'm sorry, May, but it's not tin can, he said. You must not have heard me correctly. This word is pronounced like the words sin and cane, sin cane. May crossed her arms. No, she said. I'm sure that's not what you told me. You said it was tin can, Mr. Scary. I know you did. Mr. Scary frowned. No, May, I didn't, he said. Now please take your seat. May sat down in a huff. She put her head on her desk and hid under her sweater. Mr. Scary looked back to the board. A sin cane is a poem that has 5 lines, and each line has its own special rule. And he wrote the 5 rules. Line 1 is just a 1-word title. Line 2 are 2 words that describe the title. Line 3 is 3 action words about the title. Line 4, 4 words that express a thought or a feeling about the title. And line 5, 1 word that means the same thing as the title. After that, he wrote a sin cane for us to see. It was a poem called Pickle. Pickle, bumpy, lumpy, crunching, munching, lunching. Cucumbers making you pucker, gherkin. A gherkin is a kind of pickle. I laughed at that crazy thing, 'cause who ever heard of a pickle poem, of course? Writing a sin cane is fun, I said. This assignment will be a breeze, I think. Mr. Scary smiled. Well, sometimes poems come very easily, Junie B, and other times they don't. But if you share words and ideas with each other, you can really help spark your imaginations, he said. He looked all around. In fact, I thought it might be fun for some of you to write your poem as a team, he said. May quick came out from under her sweater at that news. She looked at our group. Okay, fine, I'll be the team leader, she told us. After that, she made a mean face at Mr. Scary, and she took out her pencil. I know just what you're going to write about, too, she said, kind of growly. She waved her hands at us. You 4 guys just talk about your normal stupid stuff, and I'll write the poem, she said. I'll read it to you when I get done. Lenny looked disappointed. But Mr. Scary said we should write our poem together, May, he said. See, said Jose, we're supposed to share thoughts and ideas, remember? May threw her hands in the air. I knew it, she said. I knew working as a team wouldn't work. Fine, you guys just write your own dumb poem and I'll write mine. After that, she took her pencil and paper and she hid under her sweater again. All of us looked at each other and shrugged, and then we started right to work. I tapped my chin. It says the first line needs to be the title, I said, so maybe the title should come first. May peeked her eyes out at me. Duh, she said. Jose covered her up again. And just then Herb raised his hand. Hey, I know, he said. Since Mr. Scary wrote a pickle poem, why don't we write one about an olive? He leaned back in his chair and did a happy thumbs up. No one did a thumbs up back. Because what kind of dumb idea was that? An olive, I said. I hate olives, said Jose. I threw up an olive once, said Lenny. Herb looked irritated at us. I patted him. Don't be mad, I said. It's just that maybe there's something funnier to write about than an olive, that's all. See, said Jose, like maybe we could write about soccer. Playing soccer is fun, right? Yes, I said. Plus riding the bus to school is fun too, right, Herb? Me and you always have fun on the bus, don't we? Lenny shook his head. But I don't ride the bus, Junie B, he said. I think we should write about something that all of us know about. He thought for a second, and then he clapped his hands together. I know, we should write about how all of us shampoo our hair to keep it healthy and shiny. All of us do that, right? After that, me and Jose and Herb just looked and looked at him. Because sometimes Lenny is off the deep end, that's why. Finally, Jose put his head on his desk. Maybe we're making this too hard, he said. Why can't we just write about something easy, like about how all of us are friends or something? Herb smiled a little bit. Yeah, that's a good idea. We could write about the four of us and we could call it Friends. Jose smiled too. Sí, he said, or amigos maybe. Amigos is the Spanish word for friends, if you didn't know that. Just then, I bounced up and down real excited because the perfect title just hit me. That's why it hit me right out of the clear blue sky. Pallies, I said. Let's call it Pallies because that's what we are, right? All four of us are bestest Pallies. And Pallies sounds like a cute title, don't you think? And there's Junie B all excited to call it Pallies. It's fun. I think it's fun they're going to write about being friends. I looked at all of them real hopeful, and then all of my pallies started to smile. Our poem was off to a great start. We're going to stop there. In our next video, I'll read chapters 7, 8, and 9. We'll finish the book. So if you want to, just go right ahead in this playlist to the next video to finish, or you can give yourself a pause and wait until you're ready for the next one. Until I see you in our next video, have a great day.